First, I'd like to offer my congratulations to the graduating students and their families. You've completed a monumental accomplishment, no doubt. You've sacrificed much, and you worked incredibly hard to get to this day. Your degree from RPI means a great deal to you now. And based on my experience, it'll only grow in significance as time goes on. So thank you for inviting me to speak at the Lavender graduation. I'm delighted to be back on campus after so much time has passed since I graduated in 1979. This is the first time I've been back on campus really since then. RPI did not offer a Lavender graduation in 1979. So today it feels like my Lavender graduation too. I am gay. I could not bring myself to say those words when my parents helped move me and my belongings into the second floor freshman dorm room at Davison Hall at the end of summer of 1975, excuse me. I didn't think I was going to get emotional about this. But of course I knew I was gay. I was just really afraid to come out at that point in time. That would take a couple more years to overcome. My RPI education is a foundation on which I've built an incredibly fulfilling life. It opened doors for me and gave me the knowledge and skills to succeed in my dream career. I was born in 1956 and raised in Schenectady, New York, just a few miles down the road. My parents were working class. Both my mom and dad worked outside the home. They instilled in me the qualities of generosity, empathy, acceptance of all people, education, and a strong work ethic. I'm an only child, and my parents always supported me in what I wanted to do. I knew around the age 5 that I was different from other kids, but I didn't figure out what that really meant until I was about 12 or so. I knew at that point that I was attracted to my male classmates in high school. I also knew that I could not let anyone know that. I went to the public library and looked up any references to being gay. They were all negative. The American Psychiatric Association had not yet removed homosexuality from their list of disorders, mental disorders, in their manual. There was no one in my school, at my high school, who was out. No GSA, no teachers or counselors who I felt that I could trust enough to tell, and I was not ready to tell my parents at that point. I liked school and developed interests in journalism, history, and architecture. I decided to major in architecture and applied and was accepted to RPI. So when I got to RPI, sorry, I just missed my place here. So when I got to RPI, I quickly realized the environment here for an out gay freshman was not very welcoming in 1975. So I remained in the closet and searched for any signs of gay life on campus. I didn't find any. I just threw my energy into my studies and enjoyed my architecture courses. As an architecture student, I had to take a science course to meet the core requirements. I picked natural science, also known as rocks for jocks. There were a lot of hockey players in my class, and I had a crush on everyone. I don't remember my final grade in that class, but I'm quite sure I had perfect attendance. So I kept my secret through freshman and sophomore years. By my junior year, I felt that I needed to come out in some way. So I discovered that there were gay bars in Albany. and I started going to the 8 Balls Lounge. It was the height of the disco era, and it offered quite an exciting new world where I felt I could be myself and meet other young men like me. I spent a lot of nights at 8 Balls, sometimes staying until the DJ played Donna Summer's Last Dance at almost 4 in the morning. The bars were then open to 18-year-olds, and they were also open until 4 in the morning. But I soon tired of pretending to be straight by day and gay by night. I decided one night to wear my RPI t-shirt to 8 Balls, thinking that it might help me meet another RPI student. Surprisingly, it worked, but not quite in the way I expected. An older man approached me and asked if I was an RPI student. He then introduced himself as the campus chaplain. Quite surprised, like you are, I began a conversation with him and lamented that there was no support group on campus for LGBTQ students. He agreed to help me start a group and offered the Chapel and Cultural Center Lounge as a meeting place. By early in 1978, we had our first meeting with about a half dozen students. It was a modest beginning, and the group never grew very much larger than that while I was on campus, but it felt like a lifeline to those of us who attended. I remember that one of the students was suffering from severe depression, and we helped him work through a lot of his fears and anxiety about being gay. As far as I've been able to determine, it was the first LGBTQ student group that ever met on campus. This experience is why about a year ago I contacted RPI to see how I could help RPI become a more welcoming place. That conversation resulted in my donation to renovate the Lavender Lounge and provide some ongoing financial support to the LGBTQ students over the next several years through the Inclusive Excellence Fund. I graduated from RPI in 1979 with a BS in Building Sciences from the School of Architecture. I knew that I wanted to specialize in historic preservation, so I applied and was accepted to a master's program at Eastern Michigan University in historic preservation planning and graduated from there in December of 1980. I started looking around for my first professional job. I found one that sounded like a great fit, but it was in Montgomery, Alabama. I really dreaded the thought of going to the very conservative Deep South, but it was a great first job for me, preservation architect for the Alabama Historical Commission. My RPI degree played a big part in opening the door to this opportunity, and I got the job. I worried about living in a place that was deeply closeted, but I was honest when I told the people on the staff there that I was gay. And to my surprise, my coworkers were very accepting and supportive. The job was great, and it gave me useful experience that I might not have been able to get anywhere else. Montgomery was very socially conservative in 1981. I suspect it still is. There were 2 gay bars, but no LGBTQ organizations. I co-founded the first 3 that ever existed there. I also organized and ran the annual statewide LGBTQ conference, the second one that they had ever had in that state. And the experience of creating these organizations and running that conference was really an exciting opportunity, and I probably never had an opportunity like that to do that in most other places that I would have landed for my first job. I know it made a big difference in the lives of very many closeted LGBTQ people in that very red state. After nearly 3 years in Alabama, I really wanted to get out of the conservative South. So I heard about an opportunity to work for the Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission as a staff preservation architect. The job sounded great, and I got the job and moved to Harrisburg in the fall of 1983. And again, I know my RPI degree really helped immensely in getting this new opportunity. The job at the Pennsylvania Historical Museum Commission was great, and I was quickly promoted to Chief of Architecture and Preservation. This was really my dream job. I oversaw architectural design and construction projects at 57 historic sites and museums owned by the Commission. This included master planning, building restoration, preservation, renovation, major maintenance, and new construction projects. It also included planning, design, and fabrication of many major history exhibits for museums and visitor centers, as well as the conservation of museum artifacts, art, and archival documents. I worked on restoration projects at many significant historic sites as old as the early 1700s. I even got to oversee the design and reconstruction of a 110-foot-long wooden sailing ship from the War of 1812, U.S. brig Niagara. Harrisburg was an easier place to be openly gay. The city had just adopted a local non-discrimination ordinance based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Governor Milton Schaap had also issued an executive order protecting state employees from discrimination based on sexual orientation in 1975, the first state in the nation to do so. There was a gay and lesbian switchboard in Harrisburg and several other LGBTQ organizations. So I became involved in a couple of them, becoming president of the switchboard for several years. And this, incidentally, was time way before the internet. I co-founded the first LGBTQ youth group in central Pennsylvania in 1992 called Common Roads, which still exists today. I also co-founded the Pride Festival of Central Pennsylvania in 1993, which also still exists today. I'm the founder and chair of the LGBT Center of Central Pennsylvania History Project, and this is my volunteer retirement project. We've conducted oral history interviews with more than 160 people, including Mark Siegel, who participated in the Stonewall riots, and Dr. Rachel Levine, who was the highest ranking transgender woman in the federal government in the Biden administration. We have collected more than 130 linear feet of archival documents and artifacts. We've created 11 traveling exhibits that go all around the state, and 21 online digital exhibits. I collaborated with William Burton to co-author a book based on discoveries of our history project called Out in Central Pennsylvania, The History of an LGBTQ Community, published by Penn State University Press in 2020. It is so important that we document and talk about our LGBTQ history. So much of it gets erased or ignored. I think I'm the most proud of starting the Common Roads Youth Group. Before I started the group, we would get heartbreaking phone calls at the gay and lesbian switchboard from kids, and there were no resources we could refer them to. I didn't want them to go through the isolation that I felt in high school. Hundreds of young people have attended over the past 33 years, and the group has been life-changing and life-saving for many LGBTQ youth. I conducted oral history interviews with a few of the people who attended the Common Roads Youth Group when they were young. They all told me how impactful the group had been on their lives. One man talked about finally getting the courage to come to his first meeting, saying, "This is the third time that I was at the door, and if I didn't make myself come into the room tonight, I was going to go to the Forster Street Bridge and jump in the river." Another man said, "Most of my high school years was in a psych ward, and that really didn't stop until the group started. And I'm not really sure how far down my spiral would have gone if the group wouldn't have been there." Another said, "I didn't think I'd actually still be alive. I was so depressed, I probably would have killed myself if I hadn't had a support network like Common Roads." There are so many stories like that, and it gives me comfort knowing that I played some small part in making their lives better. Another major foundation on which I built my life is my husband, Tom, who's here today. I met Tom in 1985, and we've been together as a couple for 41 years. And we were able to get married in 2013. I've seen enormous changes in the LGBTQ community in my lifetime. The psychiatric profession once considered us mentally ill. Most religions and denominations turned us away and told us we were going to hell. The government treated us as criminals and not worthy of equal rights, and discrimination affected all aspects of our lives. There was once no LGBTQ community to speak of, only a very few organizations that kept a very low profile. We could not get married, serve openly in the military, or do many other things that we now take for granted. That is not to say that everyone has full equality yet, but through the work of countless numbers of LGBTQ pioneers and activists, we have achieved great things. You are the next generation to take up the cause and ensure that this progress continues and does not reverse. There are lots of warning signs today that this could happen. Now, as you get ready to leave this campus, there are some things I wish for you. Pursue your passions. Be willing to take risks. Be open to new opportunities. Invest your time, talents, and treasures to help the LGBTQ community to thrive and do things that will make a positive difference in people's lives. Your first job may not be your dream job or your dream location, but it might just give you the experience and opportunities that launch your career. Wherever you end up for your first job, be sure to seek out the local LGBTQ community organizations and give them your support. These groups need all of us to get involved. So many are losing federal funding, state funding, and other kinds of funding. I hope that you land your dream job and continue to do it for as long as you wish. You are among the best and brightest graduates in the world, or you wouldn't be at this college. You are the architects of your future and can reimagine the world. The measure of your success and your legacy will be achieved through the difference you make in the lives of others, not the titles you achieve or the money that you accumulate. Place kindness, generosity, and joy above ambition. Your RPI degree and education will no doubt serve you well and open many opportunities for you. I wish you all the success as you continue your journey and build your own wonderful life. Thank you very much.